We're here with another redundant podcast, guys.
Let's go.
This is the redundant show. We're here after the story's conclusion, redundantly talking about redundant reincarnation.
Yeah, it's and there's other books in there too, but
yeah, one of which quite a bit more worthwhile than the other. I must say, Recollections. I would say, honestly, I don't know any fan that's above me in love. I know some fans that love it as much as me, but even me, I was reading Recollections. I was like, man, I don't think, no one really needs to read this.
There's some neat parts in there, but it's definitely, I mean, I would say in general, if you read the 26 novels and got a complete story, you don't need to read any of these, but I would say, especially the Redundant Reincarnation, which is, it's ironic because by the title, redundant, yeah, you don't need to read these novels, but it's for me, they had, the best stuff in this reading, so, some of the best stuff, at least, anyway.
Oh, for sure.
But before that, comments. Because I guess as far as reading, because I won't highlight any comments specifically, but a couple people suggested reading Old Dragon's Tale. I think we will. Part of me wants to wait on the off chance that a light novel does come out, and the other reason to wait is that, so we were also going to read the Aisha story that was originally removed because I as I saw on the Wikipedia page, because I think I was looking up novels specifically because, it's funny, so we actually both thought we were supposed to read 3 novels, but we were wrong on which novels they were, because I didn't know about Tale of Two Lifetimes, and you had seen that the release for Redundant Reincarnation Volume 2 wasn't until this month. But it turned out it had released digitally last December, and I had acquired it, so I was able to. So we decided, okay, we'll read these 4 novels. Then they announced Redundant Reincarnation Volume 3. So basically, I think what'll happen is when Redundant Reincarnation Volume 3 comes out, we'll make a decision then, and it will if Old Dragon Tale is also out in light novel, we'll read it then. If it's not, we'll probably just read it in web novel fan translated format, just to read it. I think we'll see how it goes. But that's a general plan, and that'll just happen some far off point in the future whenever Redundant Reincarnation Volume 3 gets an English release. Because I think that about does it for that, and thus making this our last Mushoku Tensei discussion for now.
For now.
So anyway.
And there's not really much in the way of comments, I don't think, here.
Okay.
At least on my end.
I have a few to respond to, but yeah.
Well, I do want to get to. I do want to tackle Jorvoy.
Yes. Yep. That was one of the ones I definitely wanted to talk about.
So me and Crafts have already discussed this. I've already discussed the confusion. So I mean, just to kind of explain, I had already assumed what you were saying was the case.
Yes.
But when Crafts had me go back and reread, because I was thinking that was just a faulty translation. But I went back and read it and went with what you were saying, Crafts. I was like, man, they would have had to fuck up real bad.
Yeah, it was such a confusing line.
Maybe it's not. And then I was second guessing things.
Again, that was during the discussion, because I read it and I was like, that's weird. I'll ask HotBoySpicy about it on the discussion. And then you're being asked on it, because right, you already assumed what it was, but now you're being challenged mid discussion. It's well, you can't just go check and I'll just go check the web novel translation real quick. You don't have it on hand, right, or whatever. Yeah, it's not something we can really conclusively resolve. And it has to have been a really major mistranslation, because as we were talking about it, looking at the line again, the only thing I can think it might have been supposed to say might have been saying was something that would have made sense with the context we know about from the rest of the story. And Rudy's response afterward is more instead of bodyguard is saying, was that the armor that was that Isolte bestowed upon the dragon god? And I was thinking it's maybe he's supposed to be saying, is that the armor that the hand of the dragon god, Rudy, used, or maybe even he thought Orsted was the one who used magic armor to defeat Autofe when it was actually Rudy.
It's funny too, because I think I literally say that in the podcast, maybe that's what it means, but then I reread it because you were talking about it, and then I was like, it just doesn't seem possible that you can get that and get this.
Right. No, I don't. Because I didn't. Hypothetically, I could have gone and actually looked at that, because I'm learning Japanese now, and so I maybe could have tried translating that one line and seeing myself and seeing like what are some possible ways you could have read it. I didn't do that because I don't even know how I'd find that line because I'm still very much a beginner. So it's like, oh, Control F. It's like, fuck, autofe. I guess he'd be mentioning autofe, I guess. But anyway, because I'm pretty sure what he's supposed to be saying is that was that the armor that was supposed to be that defeated Atofe, because the follow-up line of Rudy, response by Rudy, like that, if I'd paid more attention to that, maybe we would have figured it out in the discussion. But because Rudy says, oh, you know that magic armor you destroyed like 5 seconds ago? And Bodyguard is like, I didn't notice. Like basically that's Rudy answering like because if Bodyguard said, is that the armor that defeated Atofe? Then Rudy said, you destroyed it like 5 minutes ago. And Bodyguard is like, I don't remember the armor when that's the only thing that like that makes sense with what we know about the story when that line just like, and especially there, because it also made me think of that other mistranslated line with Atofe mentioning magic armors. Where I think it's pretty, she probably encountered the magic armor when Laplace was using it, right, back during the Demon Wars. Yeah. So that's her recognition, because she is that old and whatnot. But it was translated as a plural instead, which I thought was weird, and again probably mistranslated because Japanese doesn't really use plural in the same way as English, so it very easily could have been misinterpreted. So anyway, just various mistakes leading to a bunch of confusion. So anyway.
Too big of a deal.
So one that I wanted to bring up was so Thomas was suggesting that the other black-haired man in the vision is Alec, and then Bananipina, I might have mispronounced that, mentions that thinking that it's probably not the other guy who was the Nanahoshi because in the anime he was in the back of the ambulance looking distraught. So what I want to point out is, one, if it was Alec, Rudy would have recognized him. Like, I don't think his dementia was that bad.
Okay, well, no, what I'm thinking is not the dementia, but maybe it is Alec, but Alec is actually he has aged enough for Rudeus not to click it immediately.
Maybe. Well, he also described him as having Asian features, and I don't remember him describing Alec as having Asian features. Because I was gonna say is that maybe this person was summoned or found a way to the world later, like he aged in his world and then came to the fantasy world later. That's just, it's not impossible, right? So
for sure,
or it's someone completely unrelated and we do not have the means to guess who it might be yet. But I just remember Rudy described them as like an older Asian person, and that which doesn't really match Alec, and it doesn't match Nanahoshi's other male friend, because if he's older, then he wouldn't look like a high school like Shinohara did, because I'm pretty sure Rudy didn't describe Shinohara as being older. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because I was thinking about it reading it, and I was like, well, there's this, but obviously it's like we're not gonna fucking know for fucking years anyway.
Yep, of course.
So yeah. Do you have any more comments, or because I have a couple, but
no. All of them are pretty like final stuff. Cool shit.
Yeah. Motoharu had a good one on Geese and Rudy. Some neat like thoughts about how they're similar in regards to like they both recognize the man god is evil, and they both recognize that he helped them to grow, but they just take different paths on that, and that was cool. And then Oscar mentions how in Spanish. But that the historians who were recording Rudy in that one chapter are the descendants of the other companions of Sylphie and Ariel, which I guess you can tell from the last name, and I did not notice that.
That's impressive. Catching that is actually pretty impressive, because they're very, very like their background, they don't really matter in the grand scope of the thing.
That would be like a Wikipedia catch where you just like you're listing all the characters on the Mushoku Tensei. Oh, hey, these guys have the same name. Like that. That's a good that's a good catch. And then Ronan had a really good long comment as usual, but I'm trying to think if there's anything specific in there that I wanted to. I think there was. Oh yeah, I mean, I mentioned the dementia. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't think about how Rudy just constantly forgetting stuff might be foreshadowing to the fact that he develops dementia in old age, which is actually pretty. Because like as a reader, it's like there's multiple moments where like I as a reader remember things, but Rudy forgets, but it's so common. It's like, Okay. Like, I mean, the big one I remember is obviously more retroactive. It's with Death God Randolph, because it's like, oh, well, neither of them remember each other having met, but it's like there was also so many years, between that. That's fair. But then, yeah, he just regularly forgets a lot of other things, and it's like, oh, okay. Interesting. And yeah, it's good. Good stuff. Good comments.
Yeah. Thank you guys for the comments. Hopefully we'll get some good ones on this episode, but we won't be responding to them for a long time.
All right, anyway. So yeah, I guess if you leave a comment, be very clear about what you're talking about, because if we don't know what you're talking about, it's going to be hard to respond to it several years from now when we read Redundant Reincarnation Volume 3 and Old Dragon's Tale and whatever the hell else is out. So anyway, so how do you want to structure this? I feel like it's best to go book by book, probably, with Redundant Reincarnation
for sure.
Last,
and I would want to start with Recollections, given that it was the most unnotable out of everything we read.
So it sounds like we're reading the books in the same order that I read them.
Yes.
So because I read Recollections, then I read Tale of Two Lifetimes, and then I read Redundant Reincarnation. So
that's exactly how I read it. Yeah.
Oh, nice, perfect. So yeah, Recollection is definitely like, it's fine. It's just a lot of little stories that had something amusing, I guess, or cute, but like, and yeah, obviously, like, as Recollections, it's like also these little tidbits generally from, like, it went through chronologically around the actual story, if that makes sense. There was a couple of neat things, like, I mean, there was the one chapter with the doll that Zanoba was freaking out about and that he couldn't buy, and then it reveals at the end it was probably a keychain that Nanahoshi dropped. Is what I assumed, because it was very clear, like, it was like, oh, it's something from another world. It was processed and made in a way that obviously Zanoba would find interesting, because a mass-produced plastic keychain would be impossible in this world. So that was like, oh, neat reveal there. And then, I mean, probably my favorite little bit was the Bodygotti being like an advice counselor. And the fact that he just kept doing it until he left the academy. Like, he's just like, yeah, I'm this old guy giving my wisdom to these children who are still fighting themselves. People were literally lining up en masse to get wisdom from him. Yeah, it's cool. That was good. That was good.
What else? The Sylphie chapters at the end are cute.
Very.
That's not much else to say other than that. Well, I will say the Pillow Talk chapter is really, really nice, because we do really get to see in depth, like, how much Rudeus really cares for Sylphie, because he's going above and beyond to tell these stories, to get good new stories, just to keep the tradition going, because he doesn't want to make Sylphie feel bad or feel shunned. That's good. It's cute.
Oh yeah, and also here's a dumb connection, but because there was the one, I think that there's like the school arc chapters where they just like, let's reimagine Mushoku Tensei as a high school slice of life rom-com, and the one thing that I noted about it was how in the original canon school arc, Sylphie was deathly afraid that Rudy wouldn't recognize her. But then here, Sylphie didn't recognize Rudy as their big childhood friend, so I was just like, oh, they inversed it. Like, they had Rudy live out Sylphie's fear, I guess. So I was like, okay. And yeah, the Hollywood one was just dumb. Not in a way that I really cared for.
Yeah, I 100% skimmed through all that one.
Oh, so you might have missed Ruijerd being a racist stereotype.
I missed that. Yep, I did.
Yeah, there's like, honestly, he's Jamaican and he's got because I was just like, that's so dumb. I don't know.
Yeah, I started reading. I read the first one. I was like, man, this could just be some dumb shit. I don't care. I love you. I love you. I love you, Rifujin, and Mushoku Tensei. I love your story, but
yeah, and that's it. I think there was a publication history. These are all like extra stories that were published in other as bonuses, or like I'm looking at, it's like like Melon Books or Tora Noa Na. So just like little extra chapters published with other volumes or other things. So that's where they came from. So they're just very scattered as a result. Or reordered in, again, a chronological way, I assume. Or I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And then I think there was one more. Norn loving Dad Paul's stories is cute. Oh, and then
was that in this one?
yeah, that was Princess. That was the Paul was researching into stories to tell Norn because she loved her.
Oh yeah, that was it. Oh yeah,
that was really good. That was
I
really
love
good.
that one. Yeah, that one was good. Yeah.
And then the one before that was Ellen is. I just love the line of where Ellen is like, hey, you see that guy? You see the way he's walking? Yeah, you can tell he has a massive dick. And it's like, oh my god, that's not where I thought this was gonna go. I need to learn how to walk that way now. Just to give the illusion of having a massive dick.
No, honestly, I'm the type where I wouldn't want to disappoint because then I'd feel even more anxious. Like,
no, that's I don't. I really
disappoint him.
I just think the idea of that like specific like, and it's of course it's Ella and Elise, so it's like yeah, she's great. But yeah, it's okay. Easily my least favorite Mushoku Tensei novel, period. Actually, but
same.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's still some fun there. Anyway, on to Journey of Two Lifetimes, the novel I didn't know existed.
Which is basically just Recollections, but better, honestly.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
Also just
we just get cooler stuff here too. Like we get like manga. From all the
the celebration and well wishes of all the authors and other people who are like, hey, congratulations for finishing Mushoku Tensei, and the manga, like the one by the Roxy.
It also
author
reminded me
really cute.
just how many. It reminded me how many manga projects are going on in tandem with like the anime shit, and then the light novels still coming out. It's goddamn, Mushoku Tensei is huge in terms of like how much adaptation work is being done on it at any given time. That was the only one I really keep note of and keep up to date with, which I think is most people's, at least in the West, is the anime. So
I've not had my eye on any. Well, I was interested in the Roxy one, but then I decided to wall off a lot of Japanese stuff for that isn't for podcasts or whatever, so I probably won't. I'll one day read Mushoku Tensei in Japanese, and one day and then I'll probably be able to read the Roxy manga too. Or maybe I'll probably watch the anime in Japanese first, actually, because I guarantee it's all just Japanese subtitled. So yeah, especially maybe I'll do it when season 3 comes around, and I'll watch it all, and then that'll be cool. Anyway. But anywho, I like the manga chapter with all of them kissing Rudy while he's sleeping. Yes, is super cute.
And then Eris being the good husband she is and carrying him to the bed.
Princess carrying him to the bed. God. Yeah.
So great. That's so cute.
Very good. And then
and then we get the final meeting of Rudeus and Sarah. Their final. At least chronologically, as we know, this is the final time we see them. And
yes.
I love the page where Rudeus is just like examining her and her new happy life, and he's so happy for her. It's so sweet.
Yeah,
I love it so much. Yeah, good stuff.
Good shit. And then we get into the chapters and just like the little like like I don't know, seeing Lars and laws. They kind of I don't know which translation people prefer. But just like his perspective on Sylphie's upbringing and just his perspective in general, because we got like one scene of him where he's like, oh yeah, Rudy, your dad's right. You do make you feel like make us adults feel like we're failures as adults, or something like that. And that was like the only scene we got, and then he died. So getting him more of his perspective and more of just him, like, because obviously him being the one who burdened Sylphie with her race, like he's Ellen Lisa's son, so he's the one who felt bad about that, and just I don't know, just all these perspective chapters. That was a good one.
And that's the thing. I think the biggest difference between this and then Recollections is like funny, goofy crap, and then it was with a couple of chapters that are a little bit more substantial in terms of like the emotion you get in it, where I feel like pretty much most, if not every, short story out of A Journey of Two Lifetimes is like, I want this. This is very substantial. Yes. Like what you just mentioned, the walls, and it's like good stuff. And really, literally immediately after, we get the explanation, and we already have had the explanation, but it is more explained. Like we feel it more, or at least Ghislaine's loyalty to Eris, getting to see exactly how she came into being of service to the Boreas Grey Rat family.
Yes.
And it is very substantial. Like I now can fully see why Ghislaine would be so, because Eris did without a doubt save her life, right? And we see it here. It's cool. Yeah. And not much else to say for me there. It's good stuff.
Yeah, so then like Philip and Paul were used to be friends, and like that's part of why Philip helped out Paul with taking in Rudy. That was cool.
Well, it just his just not only like how he informed his adolescence, how Paul informed his adolescence, but the fact that Philip with Paul's return, he's able to look retrospectively at his life thereafter, and then understand that, oh, had I been a little bit more like Paul, I would have enjoyed all of this a lot more. and then he comes to that realization, and then because Paul gave him that perspective in his reunion, he gave something back to Paul. I think all that stuff is really, really cool. It's similar in a way to me. I love it so much because I'm thinking of it in tandem with the story on Talhand we get in Redundant Reincarnation Volume 2 that was pleasantly, surprisingly brilliant. It's great. I'm thinking about how Paul really mirrors his son, Rudeus, in that both of them have impacted so many lives, either directly or indirectly. Paul especially being in the fangs of the Black Wolf, and not just that, even with his, even with his Boreas Grey Rat, I don't know what extended family. In ways he will never be able to understand, he impacted Philip, and it's just very similar to Rudeus, and I love that because again, I've said countless of Rudeus and Paul are favorite father and son dynamics. So any new additional thing I can latch on to with those two, whether it be a parallel or not, is great. And I love this little parallel between them.
Technical issues, the podcast. Okay, what's the last part you actually remember talking about?
Oh no, we talked about Paul and Philip, and then
I always talk about the one where Eris goes shopping.
Yes. Okay. We were. Okay. I remember now. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just did not hear anything you said about it, but I remember you were starting there.
Yeah. So
but you don't have to explain it again.
I didn't have that much to say. I mean, I thought it was funny at the end where it's like Rudy was so panicked he grabbed her. He didn't know what to do and grabbed Eris's butt. And it's just like, okay, you little piece of shit. But also I was talking about how the title is the English. There's a Japanese reality show called Hajimete no Otsukai, which is about they film 5-year-olds running errands, basically, and because it's cute, and you see these very young kids addressing various this challenge of what we have as a very simple task, and just it's kind of fun as a reality show, and it's the title's chapter of Old Enough. That's what the English subtitle on I think it was on Netflix or something. That's what they called it. So they just used the English title for which, because I presume that the original chapter was just called the same thing of the Japanese show, basically. So yeah, I just thought I was like, oh, okay, this is Eris. I realized once I realized it's Eris going on errand, it's like, oh, that's what the title is about, basically, because it's her first errand, basically. So that's what the original Japanese title means. Sorry, I didn't explain that. Yeah, which I just thought was because I just happened to have seen that, so I understood the reference. But yeah, it was a fun chapter.
Cool.
Eris is just a menace. So yeah,
menace, indeed. Speaking of menaces, we're going right into the Kirishika.
Yes.
Who has a cute crush, and but it ends very quickly as her story's too boring and she flies away.
Yep.
Right. Good stuff.
Yep. Unfortunate. And then oh yeah, then there was the fucking chapter about the there was the whole Luke got a painting from a lady or something, an older lady, and then Ariel hid it, and then Fitz found it, and they don't explain what it is, but it's apparently or maybe that was later, but it's like I don't know, there it was a thing. But yeah,
it's good stuff.
Oh yeah, also another reference. So the title, the head ripping prince's work is never done. Where they're playing the board game basically.
Yes.
Which, and of course, just a little tidbit of him winning because, which, as an analog to with chess, the pawns being really important, Zanoba sees the slave piece as important, which is, of course, Julie. He sees her as a person, even though she happens to be a slave, right? So that was really good. But the title is a reference to a comedy series about shogi called "The Ryo's Work." Ryo's Work is Never Done, basically. So, which is also a board game. So yeah, I was like, all references all over the place.
Hell yeah.
So yeah.
I do want to mention in the Ellen Elise Wants to Be There, how Rudeus immediately like goes, "Oh, a gift? Like, bro, just get naked and wrap yourself up in a bow, and like she'll like that'll make her day. That's a gift enough." And it's like, but like he's kidding, but it is true. Like,
yeah. Well, doesn't he say like, "Rudy, you're a genius," or someone? No, or maybe it's Ellen Isley. He says something with Ellen Isley, and she says, "Rudy."
Yeah. Like, because he just say it to her later, and then she's like, "Wait a second, actually."
Because his, he comes from a country with a different, like a various developments when it comes to like, sexuality and fetishes and stuff. So, in some ways he is indeed a genius to the people of this world. So yeah, that's very fun. And it's just also more Cliff and Ellen Ellie's relationship stuff is nice. Oh yeah, and as far as tabletop stuff, I also thought the chapter where they play D&D was interesting, just because it's like seeing how they take on role playing basically, and how like Ariel seems to be playing a character that's evocative of geese in some ways somehow, and then obviously Sylphia is just like, it's Rudy. She's playing as Rudy. This is so cute.
That's
fun. It was just very fun. Or that was a pretty cute chapter. Then what are some other chapters?
Any other ones I want to talk about? There definitely is, because there's one. My favorite one, I'm sure you guys can guess, but I want to see if there's any one before that I want to take note of. No, I'm here now, so I guess there wasn't any before this that I wanted to talk about.
Well, what's the chapter? Because I want to see if there's any before that than I have, because I have just short notes about some of the chapters, but what was?
It's not this one. It's not this one, because this one is Rudeus and Paul and the Beggaret content. That's not the one.
Okay. Because I'm just looking ahead, and I like them talking about Paul. I guess like them,
all the funeral chapters.
That's okay. Those are really good. Just them reminiscing and having all these experiences, and just what Paul meant to them, like Geese taking up collecting the medals and stuff because Paul wasn't able to do it, or Lilia reminiscing about her, like the fucking making the food that he didn't like, and is like, eat it, this is a revenge for being assaulted all those years ago. And
and that one was actually my favorite. That one was I think was really sweet. I think that one was really, really good. And like that small note, like this is the time Lilia realized she loved Paul. I was like, oh damn, it's cool.
Because he did legitimately regret it, so he ate it. So and just they're the good interaction, especially because it's also like because I was thinking about it with the Genius Maid chapter, which is how no one, like Aisha was their maid, but neither Paul or Rudy saw them like that, and just in this instance of where Lilia is their maid, but technically, but like in this moment Lilia is the one having power over Paul, right? Which is kind of why she took on the job in the first place. But she just has this petty revenge, and it's just like and he's just like, yep, I fucked up. I'll eat this food I don't like, and it's like good stuff.
Eat that shit, bro.
And then, though that said, it was also a good laugh a little after those chapters where you have the chapter with like Roxy wanting to repay the hat gift that she got, and like making these getting this the material for these really nice boots for Sylphie, and then Rudy's like, "What'd you get me?" And it's like
after that, Rudeus fell into a crushing depression.
Rip Bozo.
Literally verbatim what it says in the novel. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But actually rip Bozo, because bro, you were really expecting a gift. You Isn't 2 wives gift enough? Third in the waiting, bro. We asking for a little bit too much here, Rudeus. I love you and all, but man, you're asking for too much, man. Let Sophie have this moment, you motherfucker.
Oh yeah, which by the way, like looking at the end of the chapter, because they end a lot of chapters with but that's a story for another time. And I was gonna say it's kind of well, because I think it's oh no, it was actually at the end of I think it was in this one. There was a chapter with Norn and Ruijerd, and I knew that got covered in Redundant Reincarnation, but that chapter did not end with "But that's a story for another time." So it's like there's like an inverse thing going on where if he ends it with "That's a story for another time," it's not actually a story for another time. But then in this case where it didn't end like that, it was actually a story for another time because we did get it. So I just like, that's interesting.
He's a funny man. He's a funny man.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's right. So it's like the fucking. And then there was the whiplash moment where I think there was like the Antave chapter where she's like, "Oh man, Rudy, fucking, I'm gonna learn how to counter lightning magic." And then Moore goes out and Antave's like, "Yeah, I learned how to counter lightning. Why was I doing that again? Oh well, I'm going back to the castle." And then you have that funny part, and then right after that you get the fucking horrible nightmare of like
nightmare. Yeah.
Just everyone being horrifically like gruesomely fucking killed and murdered, and fucking like it ends with Lucy being fucking I was like, oh okay, maybe I should read these chapters back to back. That was a bit of a whiplash moment. So god yeah, and then Rudy and Sophie both having the same nightmare, and just we're overcoming the immediate fallout from the Orsted fight. So yeah, that was an interesting one.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
he's so used to betrayal, and it's so nice to see that comparing this to the, and he said actually that is a comment from Ronan that I thought was really cool. He was joking. He was like, I see it, the turning point. I forgot to mention this. Is the one comment I wanted to mention. I'll mention it now for the hell of it. But he says that the real turning point was Orsted, forcing Alexander into submission. But actually, I thought he was going for something else. I thought what he was going to say is the turning point was having Orsted smile and say, I want to have a turn in trusting treasured comrades, right?
Right, the turning point was Orsted moving as a person, right? Like,
because here we see Orsted is pretty casual about it, because he's like, happens in like every loop, you get betrayed, get killed in my sleep and whatnot. We we see that in Redundant.
Yes,
how he talks about he's gotten killed in his sleep multiple times. All this stuff, but here now, finally, in this extremely different loop, he's able to rest easy, and he's able to even smile with people he truly treasures. It's cool. And then also on the note, I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you, Krause, because it is a little bit of a spoiler, but I'll mention it now. Rifujin did a while ago confirm that the turning point names are specifically supposed to denote the time where the timeline drastically changes.
The timeline drastically changes.
Okay. Yeah, like what's usually supposed to happen in the course of history that like Orsted knows, for instance.
Turning point
one was the displacement incident. Turning point 2
was that when Orsted met Rudy?
Yes, when Orsted met Rudeus. Yes, and then turning point 3 is the is Rudeus going against the man god, and then going to, and we know where that leads, right? Paul's death and all this stuff. And then of course turning point 4, and then turning point 5, where the man god is it's basically denoting when the man god's plan is thwarted. I think less than it's when the man god shit is getting thwarted.
That makes sense. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, because I'd always just taken that and more of just the general meta sense of it's literally a turning point in the story, right? Where the what we know and where things the teleportation incident's obvious with Orsted meeting Rudy. It's like, well, this changes both like Eris's and Rudy's motivations going forward, right? in regards to like, well, less so with Rudy, but like, I mean, it leads to their split, right? And that is more of a major change for Rudy, where with Eris, it's like, I need to defeat Orsted, and that, so, and then, yeah, and so on and so forth. Like, that's how they always felt to me. But I guess, yeah, thinking back, it's like, yeah, with Paul dying, it's like, that didn't really change anything for Rudy, I guess, in the sense of like, well, it's like, yeah, he went to go save his mom, and they did that, and then his dad died.
But he got Roxy, and Roxy, if she gets impregnated,
that was that was
yeah.
right. The hero is born. So that makes sense. But yeah, I didn't think about how it's like, yeah, I guess that didn't like, because the plan was always to go back home and go back. It was just a matter of like, did Paul and Zenith come with them, or only one or the other, right? Like that was, so I didn't think about how it's like, no, that really wasn't, like, obviously it was a turning point for him because Paul died as a person, but as far as like his story and journey goes, it wasn't really that much of a change, like in the literal sense of just like where he was going and what he was planning to do. Yeah. Hopefully I'm making sense there. But yeah.
And then Journey.
I think we get the I don't know if I had anything else to say about the Norn Ruijerd stuff, or if any of these other chapters. Oh, that's right. There was the ceremony chapter, which, because I remember they mentioned in the historian thing where they mentioned a story about Rudy like burning down the forest because someone insulted his wife, and then we find out the actual context of like what happened. It's like, no, Roxy was showing up, no, Roxy did it, and Rudy got mad about people for like, it's like the way the story like blew out of proportion from like what we actually see during the ceremony chapter. I was like, oh, okay, I forgot about that, or I almost forgot about that, but yeah.
I love the Roxy chapter, the morning of my day off. That chapter is really sweet, but also like this is the first time that Rudeus has fully explained like why Roxy means so much to him, like as a sort of superior. It's sweet. And then, but Roxy, says, "Well, we're even. You saved me too. So hey,
yeah,
we're husband and wife, bro."
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. I think there was the bit in Recollections where she describes her ideal husband, and she just describes Rudy. Like that was pretty funny. It's like, God damn, she's literally just like her exact fantasy brought into manifestation, like by complete accident. Like holy shit. Maybe she can tell the future, and that's how. And Laura has that because Laura seemed to have that ability as a kid too. So fuck, because Roxy saw her husband in a dream, and she was like, yeah, that's that wet dream. Just to they needed clarification. But yeah, also as far outside of the and there was also Roxy mentioning in the ceremony chapter of like making sure to praise your students, and just like, oh yeah, the failure with Pax is still resting with her. But aside from the chapters, the interview at the end was basically like a more fleshed out version of the Recollections interview. Because I did read those, and I just thought it was interesting. There was a proto Mushoku Tensei where Nanhoshi was the main character. Like that was the original draft, so to speak. Just the fact that he wrote daily updates. he wrote the whole story in 2 years. What the fuck?
That's fucking crazy. This dude's a madman.
Oh my god. And also just like little, like apparently Shirotaka mentioned how he tried to give some of the kids or not even just like Rudy's kids, but also like Paul and Philip's children like aspects of their like appearance, like or traits of theirs and stuff. And I don't know. I thought that was also I love the little deal. I think with Alec, he said something about because like with Alec there was a deliberate like trying to make him cringe, and it originally was supposed to be younger, and then they said making him older made him more cringe, so that was like perfect because he's kind of a dumbass, right? I think very much a kid, so I was like, that's funny. And also just the illustration at the end of them all as kids is really cute. So yeah, good novel, good shit. True. Well, not Roxy, but yeah. Well, she already looks like a kid. She doesn't need. Maybe she is a kid. I don't know. You can't tell. So anyway.
Oh, poor Roxy.
Rip. Okay. Anyway, moving on to Redundant Reincarnation, where I feel like there's more. It's like not a direct, like they're more like short stories, but I feel because they're multiple chapters, they're able to go in more depth. So probably these will be easy to talk about. Because
I think
speaking,
they're all good.
yeah, no, I absolutely do. I was just speaking from experience with the Nen show. Is it like these kind of podcasts are? It's kind of hard to talk about episodic stuff because it's like it's pretty rare that you really go in on something in the same way we did for like an ongoing story, even a small part of an ongoing story. But so here we are. This will be a little easier. And yeah, these were really good. So yeah, starting off, I think we get the Norn and Ruijerd, which I mean, I think I mean, it's good for sure. But
just the fact that I find it so funny that it makes sense that Rudeus wouldn't home in on exactly who Norn's crush is.
So fucking dumb.
No, wait, sorry, it's the opposite. It makes sense that Rudeus would not home in on Ruijerd liking Norn, so that misunderstanding happening. But to me, it's like, Rudeus, come on, man. It was so
Norn's
evident
literally saying how
guy.
much he wants to jump Ruijerd's bones, and Rudy's like indirectly, and Rudy's just completely like, oh man, she likes someone else. How can I set her up with Ruijerd? Like, bro, this is your adventure. You're already losing it. You're only 34.
Come on, man.
Oh god. So funny.
The conversation is really good though. How she's just like, well, yeah, if it's you, big brother, I'll agree to it. He's like, well, no, wait, no, hold on, I want it to still be your decision. Come on, bro. And kind of how like she kind of gave up on the prospect of Ruijerd. But then she sees the light on the horizon when he says it's Ruijerd, and I fucking love the just the standoff between him and Ruijerd.
So anyone who wishes to take Norn as a bride must defeat you first, and it's like, no, we're good, you're good. Man, Ruijerd's such a dork. I love him. But I also especially like the conversation that Norn has with Aisha sort of like feeling like she lost to Norn in something because like they've been so competitive for so long, with Norn obviously trailing so far behind, but then like she just casually just beats her in a way, right? Where, because I guess Aisha being a genius, like we saw with the one chapter with the mercenary band, where it's like because she is the way she is, she in a way she almost like struggles to make bonds sometimes, and then Norn just like, oh, I'm married now, and it's like, oh well, shit. So yeah, not that she doesn't have bonds, but it's like with the mercenary group, it's like, again, they're not super like, they're nothing like a relationship like this, right? Where it's like she's on good terms with everyone in the group basically, but it's a group, right? It's a little different. It's a completely different setting. So yeah. Anyway.
I just love how Ruijerd, just going back to him, I will not give either of you any reason to cry. And Rudeus immediately is like, too late, bro. I'm already balling over here. But then also the same, Norn is trying her hardest not to in the wedding ceremony, but as soon as Zenith comes up, she just she starts bawling.
So good, yeah.
Sorry, Ruijerd. This it's too much, brother. You're gonna cry sometimes.
But anyway, we also dodged the elephant in the room, that being the problematic age. I don't really care. People do care for some reason. I don't know. Here's the thing I just want to bring up about age gaps really quick, especially fictional age gaps. Like, bro, Ruijerd can't help the fact that he's 500 years old. He's ancient. Like, bro, it doesn't matter. Like, any human, it doesn't, like, you'd be fine with, if like, water god Rada. Like, bro, she's still, like, a child to him. It doesn't matter. But, like, the point I want to bring up, the funniest age gap people get mad about is in Precure. I think I've mentioned this to you in, there's a sequel series to one of the older ones where the middle school aged protagonist girl was in a relationship with it had a one-sided love, at the time, partly one-sided love with the mascot character, who also he mostly took the form of like a college aged like handsome man, but sometimes he was just like a small like squirrel mascot thing. And I just think it's really funny that people get so mad about this character falling in love with in the sequel series marrying the squirrel mascot thing. Like, bro, just let her live her fucking dream of marrying a squirrel mascot animal thing. Like, it's so funny to me.
I think age gaps, like if we want to get real about it for a second.
No, I did want to get real. I just wanted to bring up that other fictional example because it's like in these cases, it's like they're so unrealistic, they're kind of absurd, and it's like, what are you getting mad about? Right? Like, this isn't what you're getting mad about. This is because it's not real. Like, Ruijerd's just like a kind of autistic guy. Like, he's not, like, I don't know what you're imagining when you think of actual, like, age gap romances in reality, but I don't think it's this. Like, you're getting too attached to the age and not the actual dynamic, right? Which is, anyway,
I think it's okay to be a little bit, questioning,
for sure,
certain power dynamics at play. Someone that's older, especially if it's someone who's just ripe 18, and then someone who's much older. Obviously, there's opportunities for foul play to be amidst, but
or exploitation.
Those are only exploitation, but that's only opportunities, right?
Well, exactly. It's very much. It's always going to be on a case by case basis because, like, some people might be 18 and they're very mature because they've had to go through a lot. Some people might be 35 and they're fucking man children because they haven't, right? Or so forth. And just in general, I think about how I think I've mentioned this to you before about how society in general kind of infantilizes women. So there's a level of which, like, in this case, it's like, okay, yeah, because people also like to say grooming, and it's like grooming is a specific set of manipulations that you can point at and observe, and it's like, yes, Norn knew Ruijerd as a child, and like he was only ever kind of like a protective like figure to her. Then they spent a lot of years apart, long enough for Norn to grow and mature on her own, right? And it's like, no, like, you can't, like, there's no grooming here. They just met again as adults of having known each other years ago. Like, it's like there's nothing Ruijerd did to, like, specifically, like, manipulate her and like, as if he fucking could. He's, again, autistic demon guy, like, who, that's just not in his capacity. So, and again, it's infantilizing towards Norn because it's like, she's a fucking adult, right? Like, she's, at this point, she's over 20, like, she's capable of making her own decisions, right? Like, I think she'd be capable of ideally noticing, like, a potentially, like, exploitative or abusive person. And it's like, yeah, she just helped Ruijerd because she cared for him as a person and loved him, and he happened to fall in love with her. Like, it's fucking fine. So I don't know who I'm not getting mad at anyone real.
I look at it this way, and obviously you have to, you can't extend this phrase to every, type of love, but like love is like, if two people love each other, man, like, they're gonna find a way to make it work. Yes. Independent of like any age gap or how constringent their lives are. This is something I've told to my friends, and most of them agree with me. If someone tells you, right now, I'm not looking for love because I am, too busy or this and that, I don't think that's ever really the case. I think what it is that you're just not the one. You're just not the one I love. And if the right person comes to me and I love them, no matter what I'm doing, no matter what my current circumstances, I am just going to fall in love. Mm-hmm. Love is something you don't really have a choice. Both parties don't. If it's mutual affection, it's just going to happen, right? And obviously, the law is in place because it has to be, because you don't want to go below a certain threshold. There has to
be some kind of protections, right? Like,
there's got to be some kind of protections, even if. Yeah. And I would argue this. This is me, MT Defender here. I would say even slightly below where we have it at 18, it could be fine. I could see it being fine in multiple instances.
It depends on the people.
But again, it depends on the people and the laws. And I understand why the law is there, right?
Yes.
So I don't have any arguments against the law itself, but even if one of my friends loved a 16-year-old, she loved him, I'd be like, man, that sucks, man. The law's the way it is, though. You're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to at least wait 2 years, brother, because that ain't going to work. I don't want to see you behind bars, motherfucker. But yeah, no, I think people, what you just said, they emphasize it far too much. A lot of people
Yeah.
on Twitter,
because I think there's other aspects of like the power dynamic to involve. It's like because yeah, that like who's providing in the relationship, like who, like, because at a certain point, like I could imagine someone in a, like, forget the age gap. What about a woman who can't leave the man the man in the relationship because, or the one person who can't leave the other in any kind of a relationship where it's just like, because for monetary reasons, right? Where like they're being abused, but it's like, well, they might be worse if they're poor and homeless, right? So that kind of thing, right? Where they're so it's like again, there's so many other factors to consider that I just again getting mad over fictional relationships when there's real abusers out there. Like I was just reading there, Neil Gaiman, very famous comic book author, serial abuser and rapist, unfortunately. Like, so it's just like, with people he was in a relationship with who were way younger with her. Like, the issue there isn't like the age gap. Like, that's maybe a bit of a possible like warning sign, but like the issue is that like he's a famous and wealthy like comic book author who's using that like privilege and authority to, and part of his like abuse towards the people he's involved with, and it's like, that's really fucked up, so anyway, not really relevant to the Norn thing. I just think about it because I see people discussing it, and it comes up in anime and stuff, because it's like the sibling to the Loli Baba kind of stuff with just Lolicon discussions. I feel like with like people taking these fictional exaggerated tropes and like, bro, what about the reality that's kind of fucked up, like, so I don't know, just I just thought I'd bring it up. And also, I imagine this won't be, well, I don't know, we don't have to talk, I don't think we have to talk about that again, but anyway, but yeah, good chapters. Moving on.
I enjoyed them extensively. I love Norn. Norn is my favorite sister, so.
Yes.
This was I love Ruijerd as a character, so this is nice to see.
Mm-hmm. And of course, a little bit with Orsted hearing the name of their child and being like, oh shit, this ally that he had in this other, that he needs to fight fucking Laplace, because Lucelia can, do what her father did some 100 years before, right? So several hundred years before. So hell yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, but I love how Rudeus denounced it as terrifying. The expression Orsted gives, because he's just smiling, because I guess he rarely smiles. So Rudeus finds it very unnerving.
Yep.
I guess it would be, given that Orsted has a perpetual scowl, right? So if you're scowling and smiling, it will probably just look menacing and evil as fuck. So I guess it makes sense.
Also, I think Rudy might also just be constantly afraid of Orsted, just because of the probably like residual trauma. And so anyway. But anyway, so moving on. Speaking of Orsted, I love how the next set of chapters starts with Rudy like just dumping his issues with about Lucy and his like fears and stuff, and then just like Orsted's just like, what does this have to do with our work? And Rudy's like, nothing really. It's just like, oh my fucking god. Just Rudy, Rudy being a dad and just being awkward. And of course, like, also, though, before that a little bit, I love the little like details we get about the school, where it's like, oh, Norn and Aisha have respectively like transformed the area and made it safer, right? And of course Rudy protecting Lucy with his underground world connections, like, oh, by the way, if any of my children end up in slavery, yeah, we're gonna have fucking problems. So just, yeah. Oh man. Dad Rudy is so good. See, this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted more of the kids. I wanted Rudy being a dad. Yes, here we are. This is what I was looking for. Anyway, and
Lucy's got some open-minded teachers,
Yes,
like,
that was
more research needs to be done on silent on mana capacity and stuff.
Yes.
But hey, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's like,
that was really, and she's just so smart. She's 7, but she's like able to hold her own. And also, she's the kid whose parents were also there on her first day of school. So,
yeah. And I love when they're, after after Rudeus clears up the misunderstanding with him and Sylphie, when they're walking back together with Lucy, and Rudeus gives the question, "What color is Dada's hair?" Because way back when Lucy was still like pretty much like a toddler or infant age. She was saying Dada to Orsted just because he had white hair like Sylphie. Yep. Oh, it's so good. It's so funny.
And then also just getting the Lucy perspective chapter and seeing her, she being the one to protect her siblings, and getting little bits of about her, the dynamic around the house. I don't know, like one in particular that stood out to me is like, because she would find out like servants, and it's like, so she's like, Lila's a servant, and she tried to order her around, and I just thought like, Eris spanking Lucy, because it's like, they're all mom, right? So she's the one who punishes Lucy for treating Lilia like a servant.
You really see that, especially I would say in Redundant Reincarnation Volume 2, like them all acting as mothers equally. They're treating all the kids essentially as if they're, they gave birth to them. This is really sweet. Yeah.
Also, I don't know why, but it stood out to me enough to write it. But like, just Bit being a little like I wrote, Bit is a little sweetie unless you're a bird, because he eats birds apparently. And also Lucy seeing Clive as a brother. All right, friends, brothers owned already.
Brothers owned, no, my boy Clive. He can get there. I believe my boy. I believe him. And we're seeing the first embers of
Lucy's.
What we'll get later is that her father Rudeus, she doesn't see that he expects much from her, but in reality, as we see, even with Rudeus and Lara, no, this is the savior. We get the response that Lara has. That's like, don't worry, you can expect a lot, which implies that Rudeus was going, well, I don't care even if she's like, not as great as everyone's expecting. Like, I just want her to be like healthy and happy, right? That was probably what, that's what he thinks, but that extends to all his kids. That's what he thinks for everyone. Yeah. And it's sweet to see that Lara is no different, right? From his perspective and what he expects from her, what he wants from her. The little bit of a just miscommunication, just misunderstanding from Lucy here. I don't know if we'll ever see a conversation happen that that kind of mends that. I don't know, because we don't even in Volume 2, but we'll see.
But we do, because we have here at the like this chapter ends with Lucy saying he'll have high expectations for me. I bet I'll work to meet them. But then in like one of the last parts of the Volume 2, she's crying because she feels like Rudy has no expectations for her at all, and that's like just these kids having to deal with having this like amazing dad who, and like the sort of ramifications of him also just not recognizing his own like amazing, like in a way that like he's giving his kids a pressure he doesn't want to be giving them. But but this is like the result of the life he's led, and I don't know, it's just like that's what I was gonna say is like, because the last 2 volumes were like little vignettes basically, but here it actually feels like there is an ongoing, like obviously it's mostly like resolving certain things from the past, but there do seem to be some ongoing things, right? And in general, it's like. Because Lucy is actually one of the because she's part elf, so she can reasonably be around for the sequel series, right? Where like Aris and Chris, who are gonna be very fucking old if they're alive, like they're not gonna be fit if they're alive by that point, right? So because they're humans. So I was just thinking about that, where it's like, Lucy and Sieg might be there in that story along with Lara and Lily, so because they're all more longer lived
for that matter too, right?
And Roxy, maybe Sylphie, because she did age a bit by the time when Rudy passed. He mentioned that she's older, barely, but so she might be an old lady by then, but she might be around. She could or younger. She could be around as well, but I was just thinking about that, where it's like, maybe this could be setting up our fucking character arc shit that we won't see for fucking like a dozen volumes into the Lara story or whatever. Like, God, I don't know. But anyway,
and then some just absolute fucking Kino Zenith of the Medium somehow from Doga after this. Like, I would have never expected that Doga.
That
just
was
so much good shit. We get our whole backstory on him, and of him always being a gatekeeper. And then,
protecting his family. Gasp!
I love. Do we even get lore on the first water god and what happened, and how the princess runs away with him and discards her name, and how Doga he completely mirrors it by willing to discard his role as one of the knights, and she's like, "Damn, actually, you know what? He's the one," and it's just it's so sweet.
No, that was just a really cool story from characters who they were cool in the original, but getting this is just getting more context with them and getting more getting those pieces that are dynamic, fucking Isolde saying calling him darling in public and getting embarrassed, is that's cute. I was also thinking about how just that was basically perfect, and just with Doga unintentionally evoke, because she dismissed him because she didn't like his face, but he evoked the water god legend, so it's shit. And then it turned out to be he's a great husband.
I mean, in reality too, oh man, I don't know if I want to get super personal with this or not.
Go ahead.
This is like love, and let me explain a little bit what it can do to, because I've gotten direct experience.
With this recently. Okay, go ahead.
So Isolte, literally in the first interaction we see between her and Doga gets the pedal, and he's like, these small little actions where he's like, "You're pretty, we don't want this to be there," and then also, but she's trying to take her sword. She's like, "Well, here you go," and he's like, "No, you need to protect Queen Ariel. You need that." And then Isolde was, she's like, he trusts me that much. He's not going to search me or anything. And he puts that much faith. He's not looking at himself as a knight. He sees all of us equally as knights. And just as much as he trusts Ariel, he trusts me. And all of a sudden she's like, wow, this guy is I didn't give him enough credit. His mind is a lot more expansive than I thought it was. And then the embers of love start, right? She's like, oh, fuck yeah, okay, cool. But then she says, "No way, not with that face," right? So she's kind of in denial about her emerging feelings. And I have to say, for me, it was quite a bit similar with my current girlfriend. I actually wasn't really attracted to her much at all when I first met her. But my somehow she mind fucked me. I find her adorable now, and she's the prettiest girl in the world to me. So to go from not really being that attracted to her to now she's so freaking adorable it's crazy. It's I don't even understand what my mind did to get from point A to point B. But the only explanation I have is through her actions and through her personality, it bled even into her appearance, where literally things I found unattractive before, I actually find super attractive now on her just physically.
Okay.
And I think that is because her actions and her personality have melded with her appearance to me, making everything on the whole just more attractive. And that is, I think, what, especially by the end of this with the legend and paralleling legend, it happens for Isolde, because all of a sudden, even physically he's attractive now. And I think that's a common thing with love in general, when you fall in love with someone, from what I understand. What
that makes
does
sense, where it's you're becoming attached to this person, and you're learning more about them, and then appreciating them more, and maybe just some hormonal stuff of your brain being you love this person, so you need to love them more, that just being, maybe, I don't know, but I didn't think about it like that, because I've never been in a relationship like that, so neat. Because I was just gonna say, Doga, getting his backstory and stuff, and just him being this simple guy who's just was really strong, and the way that he that's it. He Hans, just the guy who was just another guard was became his brother-in-law and best friend, just because I don't know, it's just he's it's just a cool dude, and people look out for him, right? Sandor met him and it was holy shit, I'm gonna mentor you and turn you and eventually turn him into North Emperor, so he's just a cool dude. And Isolde having her own struggles, of course, the fucking Asuran royalty, Ariel setting her up with them, and they're like, oh yeah, this guy had lots of resources and he was handsome, but he would not shut up about the things he wants to do to me in bed. And she's a little too pure for that shit.
It is really funny too, right? Because in the other, when Orsted learns about this, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he notes that Isolte, as far as he knew, never married with anyone. And it's really funny because not only was it a surprise for Orsted, but he with Isolte, she's always talking about, he needs to be handsome. But every person, it seems that at least most people she turned down were handsome. So for her, the ideal man was not first and foremost ever going to be handsome. It's someone with an astute moral code, right?
Yes.
Someone who had good character, right?
Yes.
Which is why she only felt really that way for Doga. We see the embers of that with Doga, but she's in denial just simply because he's not handsome. When in reality, she in other loops, she doesn't get married because she's always was looking for something more first and foremost. She just didn't know that herself, right? It took Doga doing all of this to show her that. I for both characters, this was a little bit more so Doga, Doga all around. W Doga. My man, bro. My man. And I just love too. I love that Rudeus put so much emphasis on Doga saving his life all the way back then, because he is so defensive of Doga. He's like, I got to make sure. As soon as he hears that Isolte married Doga, he's like, I got to make sure that bitch is not trying to. My sweet Doga. He's easily manipulated, man. I love it so much.
Yes. Anyway. Good shit. And then we get the one, the fucking Ghislaine chapter. Oh, or Ghislaine, sorry.
Yes.
Yes. That was unexpected. Well, not unexpected, because it's in there's an illustration at the start of her, which is like, oh, so she goes back to the Doldia tribe. But no, still getting her full context of like, oh, there's beastlings who are just beast folk who are more animal-like, and they kind of grow out of it, where Ghislaine was like a more intense beastling, to the point that she just, she was kicked out of the tribe and until adopted by Galfalion. And
they literally tried to kill her, and throwing her out.
Like she didn't even register it, because she was just so like above them in power and strength that if anything that they're trying to meet her on her level in a sense, like it just didn't register at all for what it was. And her finally be able to reconcile with them, having grown so much, and especially because it frames because obviously we always see Ghislaine from this she's more grown up and refined, and she's become she when with the arithmetic with Rudy, because obviously Eris didn't want to learn any of this shit from Rudy except for swordplay, right? Which she obviously, that was more Ghislaine. Where Ghislaine, she was actually after leaving the Fangs of the Black Wolf, I got fucking screwed over because I didn't know how to add. So I guess I want to learn this stuff, right? That's the Ghislaine we were introduced to, right? So when we, from Rudy's perspective, hear about her from the Doldia, it's like, holy shit, what the fuck was up with her? But then we get that context, and then we see, and it's like, oh yeah, now we understand why Geese felt that way towards her, and now then we get it resolved, and it's just really cool.
Ghislaine, goated character. This is kind of like a goated conclusion to her arc too. Pleasant, very pleasant surprise out of this volume. When, especially based on the cover, you think, and Isolte and Doga too. You'd never expect that unless you open the cover and you see that that's going to happen. But dude, it's crazy. It's just a pleasant surprise that both volumes are not only about the children. Where I probably would be disappointed if not for these other stories actually on average being better than the things related to the children, which was surprising to me. But after reading both volumes, I can conclusively say so. I enjoyed Isolte and the Isolte and Doga stuff a lot more than any of the children's side stories in these volumes. Same with the Ghislaine one, for that matter, and especially same for my favorite one, which comes at the end of the next one, which is the sword god stuff. That stuff is glorious.
I was expecting you to like that one just because those characters already clicked with you and you talked about that.
That stuff is Gino, surprisingly even better than I expected him to be. So anyway,
first, so Rudy makes a sex doll.
Hell yeah, my goat. That's my goat right there.
Oh my. So that was interesting. Well, specifically made a sex doll that looks like Nanahoshi. Well, because again, of course, it wasn't that they actually wanted to make a sex doll. It's more that like they're just masters of their craft, and they're going for a certain aesthetic. And it's like, well, they want to be fulfilled as creators. Like obviously, Zanoba is like the least sexual person in the story, not least sexual. But as we find out, it's like he literally can't, like, he literally can't, because I think, he has a conversation with Rudy about, like, finding a girl, and it's like, no, he literally can't, like, he needs a lot to feel sensation, right, because of his see, and when I found, because, again, I made the connection a while ago about saying, like, because he's called a blessed child, but, like, really, like, I think when you consider Zanoba's character and his person, it's like, no, he's a cursed child, right? Like, this blessing has done nothing but, again, in the way of his life, right? And that's just another way that it's happened, where it's like, he can't really have a relationship with a woman because they can't sexually please him, so that's why, like, of course he'd have sex with statues because, they don't break and they can actually, please him in that way, right? Like, and it's like, that's just an interesting little detail. But anyway,
it's Refugee genius right there, just like recontextualizing how we saw this character. Like, it's literally like a meme, like Rudeus walking in on, Zanoba's fucking, the statue again. Oh, sorry, should have knocked. Where it's like, well, no, this is like his one moment of sexual pleasure he can get. One of the only options he has of getting any sexual stimulation at all, right? Really, really cool recontextualization. And then I do want to say, because Chris takes a spotlight in these chapters too with the doll whenever she comes to visit Sylphie, and I do have to note, it is cool to see Rudeus getting his dues on the child stuff, given that we know with his firstborn Lucy, he didn't even get called dad in the first place. Orsted did, and then also she was always kind of scared of him. And then we have Aris, his first son, only liked boobs and cried every time Rudeus held him, and he's like, damn, I wish I had boobs, because then Aris wouldn't cry. And then with Lara, like, Lara was like, get kind of deadpan.
Lara and and then Sieg broke his.
I know, he's my grandfather, you're my dad. Like, dude.
And Sieg broke his finger.
This guy's always gonna show. Finally, he's got a kid that's a daddy's girl, right? Like,
cute.
Plus one finally. It's a long time. Literally, his last. I think Chris is probably. No, his last,
I think she. I think of her as the youngest
daughter.
Who? Because I think of her as the youngest, even though I'm pretty sure she and Lily were born around the same time.
Because they do it in order, right? They're rules to have children in order, and so right now, what's been happening? I don't remember where in these volumes it's explained, but Rudy's been trying to have one with Sylphie.
It's in chapter 1 of this volume, because Rudy made the condoms in the event, and they've been using them because again, the rule is that Sylphie is the next one to have a child, but obviously it hasn't been working out because it's harder with elves in general. But then
Rudeus said anyway, like, we've already got fucking 6 of these motherfuckers.
Yeah, exactly.
So
we have
house is already full.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the crew's full Jinbei. Have you ever seen that One Piece Jinbei meme? I love it so much. Crew's full. He puts his hand. It's just Jinbei putting his arm out and him saying "crew's full."
Okay, I know. I've not seen that
funny.
one.
It's Chris putting her arm out. Family's full.
Okay. Oh God. Oh now. Oh, family's. Okay. Yeah. Now I get you. That's funny. Okay, I see it.
Because it reminds me of that. Because
I have seen that meme. I just
no one else is going to be on the crew because Jinbei is going to fucking. Anyway, regardless,
but
good stuff.
But anyway, one thing I do like about these chapters is also you get the little detail of Lily seeing Doll Nanahoshi and being like, "Holy shit, you're awesome!" And it's like, foreshadowing the Lily being the tech girl. you know.
Yeah.
And then I liked Alec as a big kid being really good with the little kids. That was good. With him just telling them stories and stuff, and obviously training Sieg. And then of course,
Dada is Cheddar Man.
Dude, oh yeah. So by the way, which in case you didn't place it, Cheddar Man is a reference to Anpanman, who is he's a superhero who's made of bean bun, who actually, so they're in the One Piece color walks. There's actually an interview between Oda and the manga author who created Anpanman, and he talked about him created him because he fought in World War II, and when he left to go fight, he was a hero, and when he came back, he was a villain, and he was that kind of messed him up a little bit, and so he talked about how he decided like what made a hero was the people who fed others, because Japan was post-war, like lots of poverty and starvation going around, and so he created a superhero who ripped off parts of his face and literally like took away from himself to feed others. And it's also, you've probably become slightly aware of Anpanman through a parody character called One Punch Man or One Punch Man.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the two characters side by side, they're both bald and they have a red, white, yellow color scheme. Yeah. And of course the name being,
but I didn't know I needed.
Yeah, so just thought I'd explain the reference of how Rudy adapted that character. He plagiarized it for Cheddar Man.
Hell yeah, might go. No one will ever know either. No one will ever.
Well, Nanahoshi might, but she's sleeping.
Nanahoshi's asleep, so she'll never.
Anyway,
there is gonna be Lara's like, oh, this is just like Cheddar Man. My dad used to tell me. Nanahoshi's like, Cheddar Man? Like, oh yes, it's here. She's like, your dad plagiarized. I know that story. That's gonna be nice.
Yeah, because I would say it's like, the chapter brought in some good interactions with the characters, and just good stuff. Like Ellen Elise going to protect Nanahoshi is just because she's so good, she's just like, oh yeah, of course I'm good, because there was some men harassing her, and she, of course, Elise is gonna fucking just protect Nanahoshi. What are you doing? Like the doll fooled Nanahoshi, or the Nanahoshi doll fooled Ellen Elise. Excuse me. Just like good scenes in there, for sure. But yeah, that said, I think my favorite chapter in this story was the last one that had nothing to do with the doll, because it was the Orsted chapter.
Yes.
So, that was really good.
And yeah, I love his perspective on Rudeus. Not only his admiration for him for what he's done for all these different lives, but also for what he's done for his life. Mm-hmm. But not only a surprising amount of fear he has for Rudeus.
Dude, Orsted legitimately being afraid of Rudy burying him alive. This is an actual thing that Orsted fears is happening.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not a far-fetched fear at all, because if Rudeus really wanted to, if he caught Orsted asleep, he could devise a plan that could potentially. I mean, other people, obviously, given what Orsted said, other people have done it before, so Rudeus definitely could.
No, yeah, they never really touched on Orsted's greatest weakness, is that he's very vulnerable when he falls asleep, right? So you can't use any of his cool powers if he's asleep. So and it's like, oh shit, huh? And yeah, just like Orsted, him having gained so much in the loop, not even just like the possibility that this is going to be the last one, but I was also just like, because he mentions how, through knowing Zanoba and Rudy, and it's like, oh, maybe like they would have been big friends to Chaos, right? The dragon who had owned the mansion previously, right? So it's like, oh, maybe oh shit, I hadn't really thought about how it's like, yeah, the mansion was abandoned, like all of his stuff was still there, right, hidden away, right? And it's like, yeah, because one day Orsted just killed him and took his relic, right? So now he's thinking like, well, maybe I'll delay acquiring that treasure, like give Rudy the chance to meet him, right? And Zanoba, hypothetically, right? And I was just like, yeah, that's really cool. And then the stuff, of course, with Alec, just Orsted having Alec train Sieg, because obviously he knows from other timelines or how it usually goes is Alec loses to Gino, and then takes on an apprentice, and so him pushing again, fucking Rudy's kids supplanting other people, where it's like, well, I don't know who Alec's other apprentice was, but now it's fucking Sieg. Yep. And then just a little bit at the end with fucking like Laura pranking Orsted, like double pranking Orsted.
That's so cute.
God, like, yeah, there's our hero. She will prank the strongest man in the world, prank the shit out of him. Oh man, that was good. Anyway, any final thoughts?
Oh,
on the,
and then just having Orsted in a completely serious tone. Who is Cheddar Man? Like, it's so funny. So funny. Good stuff.
When they first said it in the earlier chapter, I literally just wrote in my notes Cheddar Man 4 question marks because I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then they explain it. It's like, oh, okay, it's just Anpan Man. All right.
Cheddar Man. Dada is Cheddar Man. And then we get the Millis travelogue. Oh
which has both of our favorite things in this reading, but possibly from the sounds of it, different things. So both very good things. But anyway, we'll get to them. So I will say when the travelogue started, and they mentioned the Ore God, I just wrote in my notes, I fucking forgot about the Ore God because they mentioned him. Like when Rudy and Orsted were strategizing, they were like, "Oh yeah, the Ore God. We might need to go to him to get some weapons or something." And I'm like, "Oh, is this going to be a character in the Battle of the Man God?" And then the battle against the Man God happened, and I forgot about the Ore God. And they mentioned the Ore God. I'm like, "Fuck, I forgot about the Ore God."
He's still there. He's still there. And not only that, he's closer to another character we never would have known. It's good shit. Before that, though, they get the letter and they go. They do a little extended vacation.
Yeah, they go to see Claire and Millis and all of bring mom and all the kids and everyone. Everybody's going. Everybody's going.
Norn's already a mama, and she's and Ruijerd's like, no, you need to go, and Mama Norn is gonna go as Norn Superdia. Sorry,
yes,
Norn Superdia. And they go, and then on the trip, we get to see a lot of the quirks and personalities of each individual kid, especially Aris, because we know the littlest bit about Aris, but he gets a lot of characterization in these volumes, and he is without a doubt very much like if he's anything like Rudeus, he's more like Paul. And he's definitely more like Eris than he is like Rudeus. But if we were looking at Rudeus' side of the family, he's definitely got more of his grandfather's genes than Rudeus.
If anything, I would maybe say that because Eris is also, at least towards Rudy, she's a pervert, right? She just tries to hide it more because so in that way, it's like. Yeah, he's similar to both. Yeah, Eris. But it's more like as a man, he's maybe able to be more like Paul, where maybe Eris kind of she kind of like secretly smelled Rudy's underwear and stuff. Where Rudy would Rudy just gropes his wife in public. Gropes his wives in public. He doesn't give a fuck.
Well, actually, Aris is very similar to two husbands, right? Because Eris is not a wife. She's Rudeus' husband.
Oh, that's true. You're right. Okay, fair enough. And also just because I think there was, maybe it was in this reading, but there was just Aris being vulnerable to women with large breasts, and what happens is he goes to the guild, and there's a woman with large breasts, and she's like, "Oh, I'll help you out," and it's like, "No, I'm trying to kidnap you," but then Aisha comes to save, so it's like big boobs try to take it, but big boobs protective, different big boobs. And also like how Aisha's dynamic with Aris isn't she's not his mom, right? And she's not like, you should be a more upright person. She's just like, no, be sneakier. She's teaching him in a way how she would do it, right? And I just thought that was an interesting resolution, I suppose.
It is like she's, no pun intended. It does really feel like she's grooming Aris to be something more than he is at a young age. Grooming him to be just a better, more equipped, in the future, a man, so to speak.
Yes.
She's not coddling him at all. She's doing everything she can do to make him fill in his missing gaps before she steps in. Because she literally stepped in last minute, even in this escapade that he went.
Right, she gave him the chance to, make up for it on his own, basically, make up, or to make to go out, potentially make mistakes, actually make mistakes, and then rectify those mistakes, right? Like, because like she even told everybody, but it's like, yeah, I'm going out with Aris and the others. Like, like she told them that she was watching them, but then obviously she was, but she wasn't like literally with them. They thought they were out on their own, doing their own thing, right? So she gave him that opportunity and made it this big learning experience, and it was like, yeah, just yeah, they have a neat dynamic. So I'm kind of curious as to, because like, I mean, they're both on the cover of Volume 3, so we're gonna get the Isa chapter, so we're gonna get more of both of them, I imagine. So yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, but then I think, so I know you like the Talhand stuff, and which is fairness. It's unexpected and also really good. But for me, I think my favorite part had to, like, I fucking love Claire. Dude, like, everyone's like walking on eggshells around her because of her harsh personality, but like after resolving everything in the previous arc, she's still stern, but she's chilled out a lot, and I just love her. I just love her intelligence, I guess, and like I have a bad back, not a weak mind, and like the conversation she has with Roxy and Lilia was really good, because she's like, you guys have the brains. I trust you guys to, like, she recognizes them as like, oh yeah, you're the smart ones, okay? So she just gives them advice on that front, and really, like, especially with Roxy, because Roxy's like fucking like, oh, I'm a demon. She's a demon expulsionist, so is she gonna not be happy with me? And it's like, no, she just has just good advice for you as a person and a wife, and just she's really good. That said, my favorite part of the reading was her stuff with Lara, because like,
yeah.
dude, well, the fucking like obviously from even before I started the reading at all, it's like I see on the cover, it's like, oh, Lara's got a frog, okay, and so she pranks Claire with it, and Claire had it fucking cooked and gave it to Lara, and I'm like, holy shit, like, you have someone like Claire being this like stern, like just thinking about like the perspective of all these other characters have to her, and then she's having this like sparring match with Lara is really good, and the way that Lara turns that around with just this very like finding the medal that was lost, or and with just being such a sweet moment between the two, like, I fucking loved it. And just the way Claire is like, oh, you know what? Yeah, manners is just consideration for others, and she has great consideration for others. Like, she reaches an accord with her, and I just thought
like a true hero.
Yes. Yeah. No, I just love that. Like, I don't know. It's just something about like the brainworms. I just really like Claire. Like, she's probably one of my like. She's definitely she went up there with this, just of her just being chill.
No, for sure. She's
I don't know. Yeah, she's good. I like her a lot. So
yeah, that final note, what you said, when I was reading it, I was like, oh wow, that is so that I feel that, where she's like, considerations for others. This is what true consideration is. This isn't like the superficial nonsense that I see every day. This is Lara, to me, is considerate as fuck. So it's like, yeah, man,
and it's
sure.
and honestly, and it's also so good for Lara, because I think, like, aside from that, she's like, I mean, she has the conversation with Rudy later too, but it's like, I was just thinking about how or just some good interaction with her in the chapter 4, but I was just thinking about how, like, most of the reading, she's like, lounging around. She's just kind of lazy and laid back, right? Even though she's skilled in magic, and
she even mentions her ideal husband is someone who does all the work, so she can lounge around.
Right, and then so it's like, oh, she's lazy, and then she likes playing pranks on other people, but it's like, no, she is just genuinely a good person as well. Right, and that was just that oh yeah, this is great. They're like not just a hero in name, but also a hero in deed. Hopefully one day, right? So, although, by the way, when the kids were training and they mentioned her being like good with magic and tricky, I had this thought even before I did the reading, and I was thinking about how like I was just thinking about that prankster part of her personality and how that might factor into her as a fighter, basically. And I had the thought of like, how Usopp does this, like with Mr. 5, he did the Tabasco star, but he called it an explosive star to trick him into eating it. Yes. I was just thinking about how like Lara can do like silent casting, but she can do an incantation for like a fire spell and then cast an ice spell or something. Like I was like, I was thinking like that might be cool. Stuff like that. Like she could, because like if she's casting a fire incantation, like, oh, the enemy's gonna start casting a water spell to counter it, and then everything freezes over, and it's like, gotcha, bitch.
That'd be a sick ass scene, bro. Reef watching, he's gonna steal your idea.
I hope so, because I think it's good. But anyway, I just I liked it.
No, yeah, good stuff. I do want to say on the right after the chapter right after, we get this really sweet moment with Eris, and what's really crazy about this moment is my thoughts are answered later on in this volume with Nina's perspective on Eris. I was thinking literally when Eris is like, just unabashedly, she goes, "I love you, Rudeus." I was like, oh wow, the old Eris, even like back when she had freshly reunited with Rudeus and stuff, she would not say it this unabashedly, like. And then how she just she got interrupted by Chris, and then she just laughs it off and pats on that. I was like, wow, Eris really is a mother. Like this, she's like, she is just matured. She is just like a holy mother right now. Like she's just radiating I just see a holy aura above my dear Eris's head right now when I'm reading this. I'm like, she has changed, man. That's fucking. And then boom, we get the perspective from Nina. It's like, Eris, you've changed a lot. It's like, I was just thinking that. Holy shit. Yeah, and this is the scene that made me go, man, what a great character, man. I love Eris.
Yeah.
Oh, and then this is sweet that Laura actually, throws a bone to her needy father and is like, I'll let you give me a ride,
Yeah.
Get on your shoulders for a change.
That was it. And also after her again being considerate, because like she noted Leo like looking longingly toward the Doldia forest, right? And it's like, oh, does he want to go home? And it's like, well, or no, Rudy was anyway. But yeah, they just had some neat. And I like how she describes Persena as Big Sister Aisha's dog.
That's funny.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
But just a good little interaction there with Rudy and Lara, because the hero of this story and the hero of the next story, just very good.
And then we get the much needed lore on our boy Talhand, which is that he is gay.
Well, I mean, which was also, I think, in one of the other two novels they did in the Talhand's notes. It was like, as I just looked through I think it was the character design. I think it was Recollections. It did say that like They it was directly stated. It just they gave notes on the characters, like, well, Geese being mentioned as like he was deliberately made to be like the opposite to Rudy, which obviously, as for why that's important, but no, it was also very deliberate. So that it was mentioned there, but here it is brought up very directly in the story as opposed to alluded to, which again I didn't realize while reading it until you just mentioned Talhand admiring Rudy, and I was like, oh, and it all clicked into place. Because
I mean, there was a hint of this actually in volume 12. I don't know if you even remember now. Rudeus, when they're going through the plans to enter the labyrinth, the teleportation labyrinth, he's getting looks from Talhand. Rudeus says, and is like,
you mentioned that. Yeah, that's you mentioned it back when we discussed it months ago, and that's how I realized it, because specifically I was already thinking about the succubus thing, because it's like, oh yeah, that obviously wouldn't work on me, idiot. And it's like, I didn't think about that. And then I also didn't think about the looking. Well, I remembered that, but I didn't really remember the looking part. And then you mentioned it during the reading, and I was like, oh, I didn't think about okay, Talhand's gay. Okay, that was when it clicked. That was when it clicked for me. But here we actually go into it, and it's like, oh, this is like going into dwarf culture, and they've got their own cool thing going on with the way they kind of like communally raise the children together to like, even though like their society still has like nobility and all that stuff, but they do it in a way that it like, they see each other as people first, right? Even regardless of their rank or position or whatever, right? And it's like, that's pretty cool. And of course we find out about Godbard, who is the best smith, and it was just neat lore stuff, and obviously, and neat for Talhand seeing like why he went out as adventurer and what he was lacking as a person, and that he's now has been like, his belief in magic, that because he's a dwarven mage, as far as like just general fantasy tropes go, that's pretty unusual, right? Like I in some settings they're not. I think in the Dragon Age setting they're literally not even able to cast magic, like biologically. So it was just really cool stuff. With him burying his demon in a sense by just like, because his younger self was like, yeah, magic can be used in forging, but obviously it's like, Godbard didn't choose Talhand because, well, Talhand really isn't that good at smithing, and he needed to become better with magic and become stronger as a person and then eventually making a weapon that Godbard probably could have done better, but can't do it without magic.
I mean, in a sense, I see it, him almost paralleling Rudeus, or at the very least doing something Rudeus literally can't do, coming to terms with it and facing his past that he, sort of, he ran away from. Rudeus didn't run away. Rudeus essentially he ran away from his problem, same as Talhand, right? With the middle school ordeal, he was running away. He was hiding from it. He was hiding from handling it. He's hiding from dealing. He's hiding away from his own pain from it by immersing himself in kind of debauchery, right? Whereas Talhand immersed himself in a life that he may not have necessarily wanted, and it took him being shaken out of his sort of halcyon days to realize that this entire time he was carrying with him something, and that was for his lack of bravery in facing what he ran away from back then. And sort of that the sword he forged is kind of representative of the new strength he garnered and bolstering himself back up to face it again, kind of, right? And that's why it succeeded. That's why the Ore God himself was able to, took interest in it and, actually noted it as a worthy blade. Despite it being obviously crafted by a novice, nonetheless, it's a worthy blade, worthy of his eyes, right? Mm-hmm. So, I think all that stuff's really cool. Obviously, just more Rudeus affecting people indirectly, more than he'd ever know. It's cool stuff. And then those same people paralleling him, his old self. It's just a common trope with Mushoku Tensei that I love every time. It never gets old, right?
Mm-hmm. And also because I have a note in here because I just think because there's I think it was basically mentioned by Talhand or I just inferred it because tying like why is this happening in the Millis travelogue, and it's like how it's kind of or how I thought of it or how it was framed in the story. I don't remember which it was because I wrote it as a note. So I'm just saying that because if I'm just quoting the story, then that's fine. I just think it's neat. But because like Talhand was first Godbard betrayed him by choosing another smith to work with him, and then Paul he found a second family with the fangs of the Black Wolf, and then Paul ran away with Zenith, right? And I guess like the way that because Rudy surpassed his lineage in a sense where he because Paul took Zenith away because they couldn't work with Millis, but then Rudy reforged that connection basically. So Talhand went to reforge his own connection basically. It's cool. Anyway, sorry.
Very cool.
I misspoke earlier. Now we get your favorite part of the reading because I thought the Talhand was good.
Well, but, I just rephrased it to mean that was my favorite part of the Millis section, which is true. Yeah, that it was my favorite story in the Millis section.
Okay.
Even though I do agree the Claire and Lara stuff specifically is really good. The Talhand stuff was surprisingly even better.
No, because I was curious because you mentioned you obviously haven't read any of these books before, but through spoilers you're aware of some things. So it sounds like the Talhand stuff was a big surprise to you, where you probably didn't know about it, or at least you didn't know it enough. The only thing that I got spoiled on
is that he's gay.
Yeah, which again, that was at least hinted at before. Okay, I was kind of curious as to what stuff specifically you were spoiled on, because I know you're also aware of some of the Aisha stuff that we didn't get this reading because it is translated out there, but it's being revised for the third novel that we haven't read yet, obviously. So.
And then the rest of the spoilers I've gotten in the past is just from like the images in the beginning of the volume.
Gotcha.
I knew Doga and Isolte were going to be a thing just because I've seen the images. Yeah. I knew Ghislaine was going to one day reunite with her tribe because I've seen the images, all that stuff.
Okay, so you weren't spoiling anything that I wasn't spoiled on by like just scrolling through the volume in page order and seeing all the images.
Literally, I should have mentioned this earlier. We were still talking about volume 1. For the longest time, I thought Rudeus just started wearing the same outfit as Orsted at a certain point in the series because of the image in one of the illustration covers is him arm linked with Lucy and Sylphie, but he's in Orsted's coat.
I just skimmed by I didn't really notice until I went back and was like, oh wow, I wasn't paying much attention. Holy shit.
For years I was like, man, okay, I guess he starts rocking the same drip. All right, W, I guess. No,
that's funny. And that said, as far as the so I don't know exactly what happens with the Aisha stuff. I just know that it was controversial, and I did read like the first couple pages, and it's not talking about any characters we actually see in the story at all. But there is a name that's familiar. So it's like, oh, okay. But yeah, I haven't read it as yet. But anyway, I have thoughts about Aisha, but it's more like I've got an idea, because obviously we know she gets married eventually because it was mentioned in volume 26, I'm pretty sure, where it's like Rudy says, I had a talking to both of their husbands or whatever. So I've been wondering, like, well, who is it? And it's one of those cases where I have an idea and it hasn't been discounted yet. But I haven't gotten it confirmed either. But I don't want to say anything. We'll see how I feel. I'll talk to you about after the discussion. But I don't want to put it out there because people already know. I imagine, because that's what the reading goes into. Or the chapters that are again already out there. But we'll wait to discuss them in full when they are released officially in English. So yeah. Anyway, back to Gino, who.
My goat. My fucking in love. I feel him on a spiritual level. I feel him. There's nothing more important. Bravo, Gino. Bravo.
Well, my first impression was how when they went in and he's like perving on Nina, it just reminded me of when Roxy and Rudy went to see Pax. And Pax was perving on Benedicte. Yeah, I was just like, well, that's an interesting, because they're seeing this person who was kind of a loser in some way. Like, obviously, Gino, I wouldn't say Gino was actually a loser, but like he was very much behind like Nina, right? Like he was just going through the motions, especially as we see in the flashback, right? And then we see them we really I guess like loser in the sense of like. He was, the conversation where it's like, what makes a great swordsman? And it's like, oh, the sword. And he's like, are you fucking stupid? Like, what's wrong with you, right? Like that's him being a quote unquote loser in the same sense that Pax was a quote unquote loser. And then we see then this is really almost the next time we see him, and he's like, oh, he's just perving on his lover while on his sitting on his cool chair, and it's like, oh, okay. So I just clocked that as a interesting point of comparison. But anyway.
So I love that Rudeus is kind of just he's kind of thrown for a loop by how unbothered by everything Gino is, and just and in a way, Gino, better than any other sword god style practitioner, is staying true to Golfalian's greatest wish for all of his students, which is like, fight for yourself, do what you want. And Gino just extends that to even in how he handles his hierarchy, is like, if you want to fight them,
I love that.
You just can't. You can't, like, go get a sword. No, you're gonna die, but I'm not gonna admonish you.
Don't you want to?
Oh, fuck it! I'll give you a fucking funeral. I'll bury your ass. I'll give you a full fucking reception, bro. Go ahead. That's really what you believe, and he means it too.
yeah, absolutely. Just also getting him. What pushed him? What lit the fire under it? It's like, Golfalion did it. Like, he's like, oh yeah, if you want to marry Nina, you have to defeat me. And it's like, okay, it defeats him. And it's like, oh fuck, like Golfalion really dug his own grave there, didn't he?
Golfalion's like, wait, not like that.
Yeah, he's like, go ahead, push me off this cliff. You won't push me off this cliff. He's like, okay, and he pushes him off the cliff. And Golfalion's like, life just goes downhill, and it's like, well, you reap what you sow. So unfortunate. But
I find it funny that Rudeus finds Gino so strange. He's too cool and calculated. It's like, okay, Rudeus, here's prospectively, right? Or rather, maybe even a little bit retrospectively. I mean, it's the current Rudeus that's in this state, but Gino, if Rudeus did not have to always be thinking about the future because of the safety of his children, in relation to the man god, he'd actually be just like Gino.
Honestly, that's a good point.
He would be in bliss and living perpetually in the present, doting on his wives and doting on his children, right? He'd be just like Gino. It's like, does this guy really look that foreign to you, Rudeus? The only reason he doesn't is because you are forced to be working and constantly thinking about the future because of the battle with the man god and how it directly affects your descendants. So you have no choice. Whereas Gino doesn't have to be fighting that. He has no more battles. He has everything he needs.
No, I think it's interesting.
Why wouldn't he be acting like this?
How I think, like, because generally I think there's a lot to gain by going, like, outside and outside of your comfortable environment and getting more perspective, right? Like, to speak of a story, both of us like Fishman Island, right? Like, that's what Otomi wants for the fishmen, is for them to leave their well and experience humanity, right? Or the human world and the surface proper. But Gino I just think it's interesting how he becomes completely fulfilled. He's just right. All he wants is right here. Right, and I just thought that was interesting.
Well, he literally does. He does. I would even. I mean, he does the opposite actually. Whereas people say, go gain perspective by looking outward, by expanding your horizon outward. Whereas he just dug further inward, and his horizon expanded. He just. It's not that he. It's not that he didn't expand his horizon. He just did it opposite to what Gaul. The only thing Gaul could see, because and actually. He completely contrasts Gaul in that Gaul was always a man that looked to broaden his horizon externally, right? And that led him to shunning what was internally incongruent inside himself. Whereas Gino, since he did the opposite, he saw all of himself, right? And saw what mattered the most at his core. And all it took were those words from Galfalian for him to realize, oh, I have something to hold the sword for now. So now I can transcend myself, right? Whereas Gaul had forgotten that most important aspect of what makes you hold a sword is that which comes from within. What Eris always had, even before she came to the Sword Sanctum, which was Rudeus, being with Rudeus as a swordswoman. Not just swordswoman Eris, but, wife of Rudeus, swordwoman Eris. So, all this stuff to say, like Gino is... How he extends to all this,
and I was gonna say, like, the Gino Gaul, it's so ironic because of what I got out of their little encounter was that, like, Gaul, even though he traveled a lot, like that's how he met Ghislaine, right? Like he was just in the Doldia Forest, just wandering around, and so despite having these broad horizons, like he ultimately, like, because how it was described was that, like, the reason he lost to Gino is because, or from what it was described, it's like he hadn't fought anyone who was at his level in such a long time, right? Like, there's a level of because just so again, despite going around the world, he hadn't actually fought someone who how long ago had it been since he fought Orsted, right? Where Gino was always punching up, right? Like that's like with Nina, and then now with Gaul, right? It's like. So I was just thinking about how, like, despite all the breadth of his horizons, like, Gaul was ironically, like, the one, like, lacking, right? Because, he wasn't, ultimately he wasn't a fit for the sword god position. He just, like, because, like, as you were talking about, where Gaul, and going back to, he thought he had to be what an ideal sword god should be, and Gino, like, refuses that, right? Like, they're all like, you need to be the real sword god. He's like, I am the real sword god, bitch. What are you gonna do, beat me? It's like, and it's like, so he ends up living what Galfalian really wanted his whole life, and could have had, but never really saw, or never, he never really, again, like you said, he never dug deep into himself and found what he really wanted.
Because he is literally the ultimate sword. He is the best of both worlds, out of Galfalian and Eris, because Eris has what Gino has without the title. Gaul only had the title. He didn't have what Eris and Gino had, but Gino has both. He has not only the title, but the fervor behind the sword to back up the title. That most important thing, right? It's cool. It's good shit.
And I also like the little duels where you have Gino fighting Alec, and also especially the bit with Eris is good because, like, Eris, like, was angry, and then that anger faded, and it's like, oh yeah, well, I don't have a reason to keep fighting anymore. Where it's just that little, like, at the end of the day, would she defeat Gino? Probably not. But there's also, like, the fact that they don't have a reason to fight, and if she was in a real fight, she would keep fighting no matter what, right? Which I think actually good, because I think even a few weeks ago I did rewatch the Rudy battling Orsted in the anime, and Eris was, like, crushed into a wall, but she was still like pissed off, and like if she physically could, she would still be going after Orsted. So that's just like part of her core, personality of just like if she has to fight, she will. But she doesn't hear.
Dude, she literally because she couldn't move, she tried to launch a fireball at that motherfucker.
Oh, that's right, she did. Yeah. Now I remember. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's what I was trying to remember, but I couldn't quite remember. So, but yeah, and of course Rudy's like, nah, nope. No, let's do something else.
I knew it was coming too.
Fair.
As soon as Gino kept standing there, I was like, "Oh no, my boy is cooked. Rudeus is cooked."
Like, I mean, at least let him get the magic armor, like shit. Like it's because I was just thinking about when Rudy dueled Eris, right? And he's like, they're Eris won. I think specifically it was like volume 16, I think. And Eris
lost
won
one time out of all the bouts. Yeah.
Or yeah, exactly, and as it's like, well, he's a mage. If a swordsman is this close, especially a fucking sword god style swordsman, like he's already lost, right? So it's like, a swordsman's duel isn't real. That's not his domain, right? It is for Eris and Alec there because they're swordsmen, so of course, right? But so it's like,
Alec thinking that Rudeus can just recreate what he did in the ravine, like out of like. On a whim. Right, like is typical childish Alec.
Anyway, but yeah, and then of course after that you get the bit of Eris like sort of her talk with Nina and also imagining herself as Rudy's only life and realizing it's like, no, yeah, I have a lot more happiness as things are because like I have all these other kids who I love and Sylphie and Roxy.
It's not even that she has more happiness. It's just that.
This is fine too. More.
She could have things that make her more. Some aspects that make her more happy if she was Rudeus's only wife. Here, she's got stuff that she wouldn't have in that scenario that she has affections for. So why would she give that up? Because she's in this reality. Why would she even think of a different one? Because she's already plenty happy enough in her current reality. Yes. Right? It's kind of like that, yeah.
Which actually, I didn't even think about really cool. How that kind of goes back to when her and Sylphie went through the Fatoa region when they were going to install Ariel on the throne, and Sylphie was like all waxing. She was waxing nostalgic because she was thinking about, this is the place where I met Rudy, right? And before they met at Renoa. Where Eris was like, I don't give a shit because, it was where she met Rudy, but where she came to love him was on their adventure around the world, right? So she doesn't have a specific place that she cares about. She just cares about the person that she was happy with, right? So, of course, she wouldn't, I think even Sylphie wasn't even thinking about, what if we'd stayed here with Rudy and there was no teleportation incident, right? Where Eris was like, she doesn't really care about the what if because it happening is what got her even closer to Rudy, right? So, yeah. But yeah. Any more thoughts on the Gino Nina Sword Sanctum stuff? Because also the conclusion where it's like, Gino's gonna fight for himself, so he's not gonna fight for Orsted, but he's not gonna fight for the man god either. So they don't have to worry about him. Yeah. Which it's interesting how because I was throwing that out there a while ago because I was thinking about how like with Randolph, right, where it's like even though they couldn't get him as a direct ally in the man god fight, it's still good to have him not as an enemy as well. Yeah. And that's also so and this is here, so yeah, it that's what they do here. So yeah, there it is.
Yep.
Anywho, one more chapter with the fucking kids and their training
Yeah, I got nothing more. I kind of just noted what I wanted to about the Nina and Eris shit. How Eris is she's so mature. She's such a mom. Yeah, it's so sweet.
That's it. I don't know how much more I
thought it was really cool how because it is cool to see that from Eris's perspective, Rudeus would overshadow her in most instances in terms of his namesake, right? Magician King, literally number 7 of the great fucking powers, all this stuff. But then and how she can't hide her excitement when there's a kid that even over Rudeus, he wants to meet her. The Berserker Sword King. I thought was sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, very good. And yeah, that's what I was thinking about the Grey Rat Children chapter, and I'm not sure. I feel like I already mentioned my thoughts of Lara as a tricky magic user, and then also just a general sort of conflict being established with Rudy's dynamic with the kids and their dynamic with Rudy, basically with him. Sort of, this pressure and also this mounting fight against the man god and them having to sort of deal with their expectations when he ultimately just wants them to be happy and this chapter just very much felt like it's setting up for more, right? Which I thought was an interesting place to end off a reading of novels that are like extra for a 26 volume series that is complete, and it's like, oh no, but here's this extra volume kind of setting up for more conflict with these kids.
Volume 3 is coming out. I'd imagine hopefully there is a conclusion to this stuff, because like I said in Volume 1, we see the ember, or rather the first spark of what we see here from Lara, where she said, Dada doesn't expect anything from me now, but here she's saying, well, Dada still doesn't expect anything from me. So I would love to get another, Lucy focused at least scene where it's her talking to Rudeus about this, and then her getting closure on this.
Yeah, and another thing I just thought, because I guess I feel like I'm about done with. I mean, I do like how they're like, oh, sneaking off to do training. They all know who's training him. Like, there's no actual secret, except Rudy, I think, but he's notably infamously oblivious. And but I was just gonna say, as far as just thinking ahead, I imagine will also, as far as because a trilogy just makes the most sense. I think you were talking about it with just in the messages earlier when you linked to me about Volume 3 getting announced, because it's you have Volume 1 with Lucy and Sylphie, you have Volume 2 with Lara and Roxy, and now you have Volume 3 with Aris and Eris, the first child and the mom, so just so I imagine if that's the case, the next reading we're probably going to get Lara and at the Doldia, and that ceremony, the hero ceremony, basically, that's probably something that we'll be seeing, which means she'll be 10 years old. And then, some Aris stuff and the Aisha stuff that we've been waiting on.
Oh, dude. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that makes perfect sense for that to be placed there. Yeah. Oh, my God. Now I'm even more... Dude, Volume 3 is going to be the best.
And then, hopefully some Lucy stuff as well in there. I don't know what the Aris stuff will be, but and I don't know. I'm excited for more. And because I guess, that's the thing is about, I imagine we'll get some sort of closure for this trilogy, but also it's if we don't get closure... then Rifuji better not fucking keep me waiting on the fucking Lara story. Just give us that 80-year time skip. I want to see what's up. Yeah, oh boy.
Work more, man. Work more. Work faster. Work harder.
I mean, he locked in for 2 years and wrote the whole story. So just shave away your lifespan for our entertainment our podcast.
One more spurt, bro. One more spurt, bro. We believe in you.
I do like how he had the comment of before I started Mushoku Tensei, I was worried about being jobless, and now I don't have to worry about it anymore. So that's funny. You know what? All right, good on you.
Hell yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, good shit. Fun volumes, and as far as this podcast, where thank you guys for tuning in for our Mushoku Tensei discussion. God fucking knows when we'll discuss more, because again, it's going to be again probably Old Dragon, the Dragon story, and Reincarnation Volume 3, whenever that comes out. Could be a couple years. I don't know what the turnover time generally is, because I'm now finished with Mushoku Tensei as of a couple weeks ago, or a week or so ago. Mm-hmm. So next time, so basically our plan is we're going to be doing a bunch of smaller things, not 10 episode discussions. More at most, I think for what we have planned, we have 4 episodes, but basically we're going to do a bunch of smaller things, and then we're going to do the Metal Gear franchise. That's going to be our next long thing. I think specifically, I think our next is we're going to do Evangelion, and eventually we'll do the rebuilds, probably not right away, but I think it'll be Evangelion, and then either Sly Cooper #1 or No More Heroes 1, whichever one HotBoySpicy decides that we're going through first. Because the general structure is that you want to play Sly Cooper, you want to play No More Heroes, and then I have a bunch of little things that I could throw in there. And so the idea is that we're gonna do Ava, because that would we probably I think at least 2 or 3 people were like, yeah, I want to rewatch Ava, and along with as well, so I'll use the podcast as an excuse to do it, which is great. So specifically, it's gonna be the 26 episodes of Evangelion and the end of Evangelion movie, and then the rebuilds will be later, farther off into the future, because the first rebuild is literally just the first 5 episodes. So I just want to put a little bit of time in between. It won't be that long. And then after Evangelion, it'll probably be, like I said, Sly Cooper, No More Heroes. Some other things I have in mind. We're going to watch Chernobyl, the miniseries. It's 5 episodes. I want to watch the Guillermo del Toro stop motion animation Pinocchio movie, because I was watching a bunch of Pinocchio stuff, and I heard it's really good. And then I'm probably gonna pick a comic book. I don't know which one yet. I'm trying to get a little bit of variety, and also I'm leaning more towards Western stuff because I'm learning Japanese, and I'd rather ideally like not go through as much Japanese stuff in English if I can avoid it. Like, obviously for the stuff that's coming, No More Heroes, Evangelion, Metal Gear Solid, these are all things that I'll have no problem with replaying in Japanese, so I don't mind playing them now in English. But anyway, Scavenger's Reign was a canceled cartoon that came out that people kind of liked, so I just was like, why not? And then we might play The Last of Us, part 1 and 2. So I don't know what comic, because I don't want to be too long, because Invincible, I really like the cartoon for, but it's kind of long, so I don't want to do it for even for a multiple episode short pick. And then so I'll have to decide what comic we read. I know you're interested in Watchmen, but I don't know if I want to read Watchmen for a third time, at least anytime soon. So we'll find something.
Understandable.
Yeah, if I even feel like doing another pick, because we might just go into Metal Gear, who knows? So that's more or less the plans going forward. So if you're interested, just keep tabs, and check out, because I always put what we're going through next in the description. So even if you're not listening to the episodes, you can just like click to the episode and see like next. Oh, what next time? They're watching Chernobyl next. I'll watch Chernobyl or whatever you're interested in. So yeah. Anyway, thank you all for hanging out. If you feel like rewatching Ava, or you've already seen it, hopefully you'll see it next time. It's a very popular show, so I mean, who's not seen it? Anyway, catch you guys next time.
Hope you guys enjoy the sound of this very loud car right outside my window.
You're roboting really hard right now in a different way than normal on Discord, so I don't really know. I don't know. Anyway, it happens.
Well, anyway, guys, we're vrooming off. Vroom, vroom. I love Mushoku Tensei, one of my favorite stories of all time. You guys know it. You guys know the drill. We'll be back in 10 years to talk about more. All right, see you guys. And hopefully in 20 years, we'll be here to talk about the sequel. Let's fucking do it.
Have a good one, everybody.